So if you take all four of those and you're like, okay, what's happening right in this moment? And I have this like unwavering faith in my calling. I'm not going to be pushed off of it because I'm immovable. And yet I'm going to have so much joy around it that I attract the light. I am the lightness in the dark. And I'm just going to think so absurdly, impossibly big because there are no limitations on my life, regardless of the energy around me. Like, how could you lose? Do you know what my favorite holiday is?
New Year's.
It is. You want to know why?
Because it's a fresh start.
It's not only a fresh start. It forces people to really take inventory of their life. And I don't think people do that often enough. You know, we're really committed to growth and purpose, and we're doing it much more often than one time a year. But for most, it's like, this is the year that change can happen. This is the year that, you know, I could actually unveil and become, you know, everyone loves the memes and all the posts on social. Like, this is going to be the year, new me. And I'm like, new year, same you. Because you didn't put in the work. And so I want to talk about how we come up with these ideas and these plans and these dreams and these commitments that change our life radically every year. You know, what was the thing you said? You said it so beautifully when we first started dating.
I said every 6 months I don't even know what we were dealing with, but I said every 6 months our life is unrecognizable.
I think you even said it more direct. You were like, every 6 months our life will be different. Like, it's going to change. And I was like, what is she talking about? You see, that's the beauty of you. Like, you inherently, innately just know, right? And I believe when we haven't had that change, we've had stagnation.
And those have been the hardest times of our relationship, actually.
Without a doubt, you know, the saying, you're either growing or dying is so apropos, right? And you can't have, I think why we work so much, the thing that tethers us the most together is our ability to always believe and seek our future being bigger than our past.
Yeah. And I mean, our kids even feel it. Like, just recently, Ella was like, because when we're taping this, it's what, January 3rd?
Yep.
And so just recently while we were talking about like our New Year's and everything, Ella's like, what are we going to do today? I was like, well, we're going to go home and we're going to plan and we're going to do, she's like, we do that every fucking day. I was like, okay, fair. We definitely do. But it's just a different perspective when it's this time of year versus other times.
You know, in the beginning, it was so natural with our relationship that we didn't have this conversation of, you know, last year should not look like this year, and on and on and on. Right? Like, the goal shouldn't be to just sustain or to live the same year over and over again. You know, there's a saying, new becomes normal, normal becomes numb. And that the things that you would like have died for in the past become now your prison, right? Your paradise becomes your prison. And that's the thing with growth. Like, the minute you stop having this compelling future of something to look forward to, some purpose, some calling, I believe you start to die. I think that's why, like, people who are married for a long time, if one passes away, the other one usually follows. Or when people retire, they die shortly after. It's because they no longer have something to go for. They don't have a reason.
They don't have purpose. Yeah.
Without that purpose or reason, I think you get stuck. Which, when we think about like our past year, a lot has changed. Like, I think it all started with you. I mean, about a year ago with wanting to start riding. Like, how did that all begin? It
was almost an exact year ago. My biggest thing was like, I want to be out in nature and I want to be around horses and I'm going to start riding again. And so I started leasing a Mustang in the middle of the desert.
For how much?
$40 a time.
Yep.
She was very trained, by the way, so it was safe, but
it was not safe.
It was safe. She was a good horse. But anyways, she did end up running away and back with her herd.
Did she really?
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah, she's now back in the wilderness.
Very safe in the middle of nowhere. So your intention or your resolution led to me going out there and going, this is not going to work for us. And me saying, why don't you just buy a horse? And you being like, what? You could just do that? And I have this background and growing up with horses that my little, my bar trick, the thing least likely to know about Dave is that I am really good at riding horses, and I've been around horses my entire life, and I know it pisses you off.
It does piss me off. Because my horse doesn't listen to shit when I'm on it, and he gets on and he's like.
It is kind of amazing that I'm able to do that. Even I'm surprised that I have that in my bag of tricks. But what the beauty about this was your idea, your intention, your goal of wanting to do this led to you going out to doing something, me going, this isn't good enough. Why don't we present this? You going, wow, we can buy a horse, to leading us to you doing research in this Cowgirl Cadillac and this auction, me reconnecting to a past life and people, right? Reaching out to Craig, and he's such a big shot and big deal in his world, but I've known him since he was 16. I just know him as Craig, and starting to get back into that world.
And for me, it was an impossible dream. It was always this impossible thing. Horses are too much work, too much money. It's you shouldn't have them unless you're super experienced with them. Yep. All these things. And then you said that and it snapped me out. And I was like, wait, what? This is a possibility for me. And then I went completely down the rabbit hole.
All the way. And then we ended up with me testing them out, you testing them out. And an auction with you not even feeling comfortable bidding, us getting crews in a random way, which led to you transforming. One idea. One possibility. And
not even transforming. Honestly, I keep telling people, I'm like, that one decision opened this entirely new world up for me. I didn't know. I still don't know. I still haven't even hit the, there's still so much to learn in this world, but I didn't have an idea that it was this whole other world. Yep. There was all of these things. Every single time I learned something, I'm like, it's wild.
But think about, you're 38 years old now. Think about how many people would be like, that dream's over for me.
Yeah.
I'm never going to have a horse. My life is this. I have kids. I have a business.
Yeah.
I live in Las Vegas. This isn't going to work. Or a husband that would have been like, nope, this is ridiculous. Or this is, And so you want to talk about a year of transformation. That kind of started
everything.
That just opened up the floodgates of what's possible. Right. Which led to then the house we're sitting in.
Yep.
Right. Because that was right after. So not only we added a 4-legged animal, 1,200-pound family member, this house, the previous owners were thinking about selling it the year before. And this is one of our day jobs is luxury real estate. And you were like, this is the house.
Yep.
And we're maybe 1,000 feet from our previous house.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not that much bigger. And it wasn't the house that we had been looking for. But I walked in and the energy of this house was this is it. And then you actually weren't.
I wasn't. I felt like it was a lateral move.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a temporary thing.
Yep.
Right. I knew coming into custom houses and the second gate was going to be a nice feel because there's tree-lined streets in here. But you pushed. And then I made it happen. And this is kind of how we work, right? You have a lot of the times you're like, this is what I want to do. And then I bring it home, right? When, you get the idea, and then I have the resolve.
You're a good finisher.
To bring it through, right? And so I did say, I have a feeling that when we move into this house, everything's going to change in our life. I said, I have a weird feeling. And that is an environment game. Right? Change your environment, change your life, right? You have to keep, I always say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You're a product of your environment. What we forget is that your environment will actually rewire your brain. It gives you the possibility of what your identity is and how you look at yourself and how you look at possibilities. It's that changing, that growing is so important. So we came into this house and it was interesting because the biggest difference for me with the environment was everything just made sense. I have a very, I don't want to say intelligent brain, but it's an active brain, right? And I'm very rarely at peace. I'm always trying to solve something. I'm always trying to make things better. And when I entered this house, there was just a peaceful aura for me with all the green and everything. And I was like, everything's where it's supposed to be. And there's a million things I'd like to change. But that was a portal. That portal just opened everything up.
I think that A portal is a great way to describe it, because I feel like the fastest way to quantum leap into anything is changing your environment, your surroundings. And it's like this, it's exactly what we did when we both moved to Vegas, and how we just constantly, we do move all the time and we change a lot. But I think that those changing of our environments, even think about the office, like when we went from one location to the other, how it just completely opened a whole new portal.
You got to shake shit up. I always say, like, you got to break shit to break through and break free. Right. So then off we went again. And, we're both very committed to coaching, not only being coached, but coaching others. Right. You with your Claim the Light ladies, me with my warrior guys. Like, that's the thing. You're in your bubble. And Dispenza says all the time, Joe Dispenza's amazing. He's like, if you wake up and you live the same day all month, all year, you're not changing anything in your brain. It's like you get up in the same side of the bed, you brush your teeth the same way, you wear the same clothes, you have sex the same way, you eat the same food. Like, you stop growing.
And you're going to have the same results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we just started changing everything. And so not only that, it's your friends. Right? Like, and I love my friends. I love my family. I love the people I work with. But, like, this is why I'm always like, let's talk about different shit. Like, let's break through the surface level. Let's go deeper. I want to hear about your dreams. I want to hear about new shit. Like, we'll see some people will go to dinner and it's a year later and they're living the same life over and over again. And they're always looking at us like we're half insane, and it's and very exciting, because, like, what are Dave and Angie up to now? Right? And so when we're around these people in these groups, we're around our people, because they're recommitting to these lives. And it's like, oh, wow, now my frequency is like, I'm not trying to bring people up to my frequency. In some cases, I'm trying to stay up with their frequencies, and it's kind of compounding. So it opens up a whole new world for us.
You also committed to your health coach this year.
which led through that, right? So I spent a shit ton of money with an amazing guy, Doug Grant, if you want to look him up. So $30K. People like, what are you, nuts? And I'm like, well, it's a priority.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember sitting there, like, so he comes to the house and he does live blood and he does this whole thing. And I remember sitting there at the table, and everything that he was talking about, I knew that it was such a portal for you that I was in tears. Like, I was literally crying because I was just so happy and excited that this was, like, completely going to change the game on a health level for both of us. I mean, you more importantly, but me as well.
And that's the thing about getting coaching and guidance and plugging in. Like, it's a growth game. So I check in we do a Zoom every single Tuesday. He's here all the time. I do live blood. I do blood through the places, right? We're checking everything. Customized supplements, customized meal plan, customized work plan, health identity. My health identity is King Leonidas, 300, the 300 agents, right? And not just about that, like, we were talking about being a patriarch and a protector and a provider, and, like, really creating this thing. And I think about what we're talking about right now. Like, I'm just cut through and stop. Like, who talks about this shit? This is about growth and change. Like, a health identity. This could be a topic inside of, like, a dinner.
Totally.
Right? And so this is the type of stuff that opens up when you're committing to seek.
Yeah.
To find. And so but even with you did 3 big things this year off of your group, right? You committed to some stuff. You haven't finished them yet, but you already paid for it, right? So,
yeah. I mean, a couple of the things that I've committed to this year, I've almost pushed out intentionally so that I can continue that snowball and that momentum. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to work with my stylist in Chicago. Her name's Tali Kogan. She's amazing. And it's a 2-day process. It's like a spiritual journey, an activation journey about, like, creating the queen that you are and bringing out the queen that you are in your style. And so that's in January. I'm going to work with, a therapist that does journeys, plant medicine journeys. I have a feng shui expert coming into town to talk about all that.
What about your pictures?
And that was huge. So my sexy pics for Dave. So yes. I truly feel like every woman should actually, at some point in their life, do boudoir shoots, like do boudoir photos.
I'm getting turned on just thinking about it right now, by the way.
But I sweat through 2 robes while I was getting my hair and makeup done. And it was something that, like, I totally didn't even tell you about. And it was It was actually just the beginning of December, and I wanted them done by your birthday. So it was quick. Like I had called her. I was like, hey, can we get me in? Like almost not enough time to like worry about it. And so I went, and by the beginning of the shoot, I sweat through 2 robes and was so nervous. And then at the end of the shoot, I mean, I was walking out in whatever she had available, and I was just like, okay, whatever. And I mean, I felt so fucking beautiful and just like sexy and alive and confident. And I text her the next morning and I was like, I don't think you understand what you actually do for women, because it's not the pictures. It is literally like so much more. Like I just felt better. Like I felt like proud of my body. I felt like I honored it. Like it, and even the girls, like you were like, don't let the girls see these when I showed you. And I showed my girls. I was like, no,
I didn't say don't. I said, did you let them?
Oh.
Yeah, you already showed them. No, you know why I love them? Because if we had them up in our bathroom or someone saw them, it's like maybe a nipple here or something like that. Like they are so classy. Like even if it was like leaked, I'd be proud, not like turned off. And I knew how important that was for you. And I was the benefactor of it as well. But it also, just to fast forward, one of my goals this year, and I think I'm inviting you onto it, is to be able to be in such great shape through that health identity, is for us to do them together. Yeah. Right?
Which like, she does also.
Little softcore porn.
A little bit. But I remember getting them done, and like that whole week, we were going through this other transition that we'll talk about in just a moment. But the whole time you kept like being like, this is, you know, me stepping into this new version and all these things. And I so bad was like, I need to freaking tell you what I just did. And I was like almost not saying anything because I didn't know how to like keep a secret. And I think I showed you before your birthday, right?
Yeah, it was a couple days.
I was like the second I got them, I was like, I can't keep this on in any longer. And I just showed you because I was so happy and I wanted to talk about it. And it wasn't even about showing you the pictures. It was about talking about the experience and the journey that I had to go through to be really proud of them.
And it's a transformation for you because like people just assume because you're so beautiful that you're so comfortable in your sexuality, right? Yeah. Like I think we throw that label on people because of the way they look rather than realizing like everyone has their own thing. Like you get in your head, like you'll kind of be like weird about it sometimes.
Totally
like,
awkward.
And me seeing you in that light, it was like you stepping into a full queen. Yeah. Like there's probably very few things that are sexier than a human being that's comfortable in their own skin. So.
Well, I got in my flow state.
You did?
I was in my flow state by the end, and you can see the progression of the photos too, like how I was really uncomfortable and how I started like becoming more comfortable. And then I was just like, and she kept going, okay, where'd she come from? You know, cause I would like be just chilling and happy.
Which this was kind of an acceleration. So cruise was the beginning of the year, the house and some vacation travel in the summer. And then off we started accelerating, right? And so in that week, I had purchased a $50,000 watch, a Rolly, that I've been putting off, no shit, for like 10 years. Yeah. When I hit this thing, I'm going to get it. When I hit this thing, I was going to get it, right? Like it was, because Rolex is about $10,000, $12,000. And I was like, when I make $100,000, which is crazy, I'm going to get this Rolex. And I never did. I never like saw myself in that light of worthiness. Like it's not even that worthiness. I'm more likely to spend $50,000 on a coach because I see return than just some watch, right? So we did that because I was I am still looking at myself like the king that I am, right? And what's wild is like, well, who do you think you are, Dave, right? Or who do you think you are, Ange, for doing these photos and thinking yourself as a queen, right? We have to look at ourselves this way, right? A transformation again. And so leased the Lamborghini, which I've been talking about getting a Bentley or something for years. Got these pictures from you. I mean,
best fucking birthday ever. A Lambo, a Rolex, and sexy pics from your
wife. I had already lost like 10, 15 pounds just from hooking up with the health coach, right? So the compounding acceleration of how much we were changing, I was like, you know, it's like a time warp. Of like, I haven't walked with a buddy of mine in 2 months because just traveling, all this shit going on. Like when I walk with him in the next couple of weeks, I feel like I'm bringing almost like a whole different version, like a new me. Yep. And like, he's like, what did you do in the last 60 days, right? And it culminated with the biggest thing of all. When we bolted our company, bolted Urban Nest onto Real, which was and is continually being an identity shift of like no other, you know? And you think about 13 years of owning a company and 13 years of pouring into people and holding space. And then the way it came out, like this is the spiritual, oh, I didn't even mention the spiritual journey of this year, right? And so going through the identity shift of who am I, and it projecting out onto people around you.
Yeah.
Because whether it's buying a car or buying a watch or doing pictures or going on a medicine journey or, you know, spending a ton of money to get a new wardrobe and a stylist, like there's certain parts of us and the people around us and the things that we interact with that are like, nope, why are you moving my cheese? Why are you changing? You can't do that. And we've experienced the most in business, especially with our agents. Like, and we were talking about this recently. When you make this quantum leap, when you shift your identity, or I believe really you're just re-becoming who you already were before you started putting all these
just
layers.
Remembering.
Yes.
Yeah, remembrance.
And when you do this, I think it forces people to kind of take an inventory of their own life.
Yeah.
And if they don't like what they see, rather than deal with it, they will project it onto you. And so I keep thinking of this thing, I'd rather die than not live my purpose. And this is part of the transformation of what we've gone through this year.
It maybe to everybody that's watching, it sounds like, holy shit, there's all these amazing things happening. But let's not forget the J curve basically on a daily basis that we've had to go through in every one of these scenarios. Like in every single case that you mentioned and every single thing, like it has been like some real super uncomfortable moments. Like even with the horse, like I remember just driving around and me trying out a bunch of horses and being like, babe, this isn't for me. And like crying, being like, I'm totally overwhelmed and this isn't meant to be and whatever. And you'd be like, listen, just let's go to one more. You'll find a horse. Anybody that wants a horse can have one. It's fine. But like every single thing that you mentioned this entire episode has been amazing. And it's been these quantum leaps, but it has not come easily. It's been so uncomfortable. And that is what truly is the transformation and the growth, is that really getting through the uncomfortable times and then coming out on the other side and being like rewarded for it.
Listen, even something as stupid and silly as the Lamborghini. Like I've gotten some shade, right? Some competitors in the real estate world are like, oh, Dave got paid off. He got a Lamborghini, like not understanding my journey, which I did not. I wish I did get some money, but I did not. Some friends like, oh, midlife crisis. And I'm like, no, just going on a living spree, right? Like really feeling it. And then a comment like, you know, things aren't going to make you happy. And I'm like, of course they're not. I was like, but it's nice knowing that I'm worth it. Well, you know, your friends could tell you that already. I'm like, I appreciate it. But the only person that really needs to know that I'm worth it needs to come from within. Myself. So something as silly as like, not silly. Even saying silly is devaluing it. To be like the 14-year-old boy that was laying in my 8x10 bedroom with wood panel walls. And on those walls, I had posters, like every little boy in the late 80s and the 90s. And everyone had a Lamborghini and a Ferrari with the pretty girls. And to have that joy, to be like, that 14-year-old boy like comes out. Every time I get into that car and I hear that rev and I see Lamborghini, I feel like a child again. And like, I can't wait to go get you Starbucks and drive to the office. It's like 3 miles of like remembering not only who I am, but like the boy that had these huge dreams and everything was in front of him. And it's like to be able to access that and do it like unapologetically and not let people bring me down on it. Like, you know, well, you know, you should probably be driving, you know, a Toyota. It's very economical. Like, no, I want to dream big. And you know what's wild? Kids get it. When I drive by kids, they lose their shit. They're like, rev it. And like, because kids are excited.
Well, Gigi, it's hilarious. There's no TV in this car.
I know.
And that's her favorite thing about our other cars. There's TV in there. And she fucking loves this car. Every time she goes out, she's like, ooh, I want to drive in Daddy's car.
Right?
Like, she's obsessed with your car. And to me, I'm not super into cars. So to me, I'm like, okay, it's a car with a different name on it. But Gianna is like 4 years old, and she understands that it's like that much more valuable.
She gets the energy of it and the excitement of it.
Yeah.
You know, I always feel like this when I'm in a beautiful hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the standard of the way I live rises, and I want to live up to this hotel room because it's gorgeous. We're in the Four Seasons. Every time I get into this car, I want to live up to this standard. I want to be the man, the king that's worthy of driving a car like this.
Yep.
And so the transformation game is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it all starts with like, what if we grow? What if we change? What if we live, not just talk, like you only have one life?
Yeah. What's possible?
What's possible to answer the call?
Mm-hmm.
And which brings me to the biggest transformation of all, the things I've been hesitant to talk about because I think already I'm making excuses. But I think a lot of people hide behind it, and that's the spirituality game. This I wouldn't even call it return to God, or even, I don't know if God's the word for me, but faith. And mm-hmm. I don't even know if it's a return, because I don't know if I've ever truly had it. Mm-hmm. I know we went to Date with Destiny when we first got married with Tony Robbins, and you needed a theme, you needed a word, and mine was faith. And it wasn't like faith with a capital G on God. Mm-hmm. It was faith, like just faith on things working out, that like it's more than just me, and I'm not like, things aren't
coming to get you. Things are working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had so many in my life, and I think yours too. I think it's one of our connections. There's so many good followed by so much bad. And it was almost like you can't have like amazing things happen to you without some kind of cost, mm-hmm. some kind of suffering. And feeling like, not just feeling like you're alone, but like using it as like a superpower. That's right. And it's a game that will burn you out. Like, all right, fine, I'll do it myself. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't need to rely on anybody. I rely on my dad. I rely on my wife. But I'm never asking anybody for help. And like, my superpower is going to be, I'll do it, not in spite of people, but by myself. I will grind. Mm-hmm. And when you win, you can take all the credit. But when you lose, you take all the blame. And it's a lonely game. Yep. Rather than feel like you're divinely led, or the universe has your back, or you're walking with God, or you're living your soul purpose. That's been the biggest change for me. Mm-hmm. And so, and you've kind of always had it.
Yeah.
In a different way.
I have unwavering faith that even some of the bad things, like that's why I don't live in anxiety a lot, because if I think about something horrible, like something happening to my children or something, like you said, like, oh, life can't be this great, so something bad has to happen. I think about like what the positive out of that could possibly be. And then I have to just let it go, because if I fester on it and work, stay there, it's not a good place. And I'm just like, okay, like everything's in divine timing. Everything is meant to be. It's happening for me. The universe already has its plans. It's already in motion. Like things are already happening. And that's, I think, the only way I can live without going into anxiety or depression or something.
And I think that calling is what allowed me to let go of what Urban Nest is in its current form. Yeah. The Urban Nest has always been, I believe, a projection of what I'm going through in my own life. Yeah. And as I evolve, the company has evolved, because I feel like we're tethered so much. Mm-hmm. And it's gone from just a really independent, great brokerage to like almost like a life, a whole complete person connection, training, support, like a way of life almost. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like something with the building and something that people can plug into. I wanted it to like grow up even more with a higher standard. Yeah. And so to be able to be like, this isn't mine. This is the agent's. This is all of ours. Let's all move forward, which is wild, because a lot of people some of them are not willing to move forward. Yeah. I had this one conversation with an agent. His name is Joe. Mm-hmm. And he became a friend over like 10 years. Just any change in his life was breaking him. And he thought about it, and he ended up leaving and going to a much smaller brokerage. And and I wouldn't want to say going backwards, but not a place where like to grow.
Right.
Right. I remember I had a conversation with him. I'm like, Joe, like, I don't want you to be left behind. Like, I want to lead you and I want to save you. And he said to me, he goes, Dave, it's not your job to save me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you're right. It was never about Joe or anybody. It's a projection of a part of me that is holding on.
Yep. To an old identity. Yeah.
Yeah. To the past. And the other part is like, we're leaving that behind. We're not bringing that forward.
Yeah.
We're bringing forward this game, this new life. And there's a part of you that you need to honor and love, but it no longer serves you.
Yep.
And that's that part of growth. And people are just afraid of the unknown, not feeling that the future is calling. Mm-hmm. And it is indeed bigger than the past. And I just don't want, if the minute I stop feeling like the future is bigger than the past, then I start feeling like I'm dying. So that's kind of the game we played as a couple. Remember, what did I say to you? I was like, all right, I think I did this with a lot of my friends. What are we leaving behind and what are we bringing forward? Mm-hmm. Right? And so this is the pivot. So we just went through kind of the previous year and there was tons of transformation. And what would you say to somebody who's like, holy shit, like that's too much?
I would say that it might be too much for you, but it's not too much for us. Like, I do think that we reached kind of like we're building capacity building. Like there was a lot of capacity building this past year by jumping in over and over and over again to these situations. But I think that these were all things that were required for us to become who we, want to be and who we've set out to be. Like I already believe that the people that we've created, the future us, is already there waiting for us to step into.
So you're more of like, let's lead by example, right?
Yeah.
And so as me, this is my pushback is, why are you so committed to your current life? What's so beautiful about it? So for instance, when I'm talking to business owners and they don't want to change, I'm like, so you must be very happy with your current results. And I'm just setting them up because they're not.
Yeah.
Everybody
I
wants
actually am though. I actually am very happy with our current results. I'm like super happy with our home, our family life, my health, our balance. Like I'm happy with all of that, but I already know the potential of even growing further from there. Like I'm willing to get uncomfortable again because I know what's awaiting me on the other side and who is waiting for me on the other side.
So you have grace for where you're at and growth for where you want to be, which is beautiful. Mm-hmm. But most people, if you say to them, well, how do you want to improve?
Yeah.
How do you want to change? They're going to give you all the things they want. Mm-hmm. And then when you give them the blueprint on how to do it, they're going to push back and go, well, I don't really think I want to change.
Yeah.
And then you have to actually remind them what they just told you and say, well, which one's going to win here? Mm-hmm. Right? And so I think when people look at it and go, that can't be me, they wait till they're forced to change. And we just keep going, like, let's get clear. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it. So we did all that stuff. Now we're also dealing with like, okay, while it gets hard, while we get pushed back from the change that occurs, because people are like, are they leaving me behind? Mm-hmm. Not leaving me behind. That's a bad way of putting it. But like they're changing. Do I have to change too?
Yeah.
Is the nature of our relationship going to change? Is the nature of our business going to change? Right? We do it with each other. Mm-hmm. That is something that we have to deal with, and we have to continue to move forward without getting pulled back into the past, because when things get difficult, it's easy to do what? Fall back to the past, what you've already known. That's why people go back into relationships that don't serve them. That's why people go back to places that they've lived. That's why people go back to businesses where they were successful in the past, because they're like, all right, let me run back to safety, rather than letting it all play out. Because you already did the hard thing. The hard thing was ripping the Band-Aid off or pulling the string or going for it. And then instead of following through, they give up on the change.
Yeah.
So here we are. We made all these changes and we're doubling down again. When people ask me what the biggest difference between me or you and them, it's not on intelligence, capability, courage, any of it. It's just when it's time to go,
Yeah.
we go. And I have a coach and people that go even faster than me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm going slow half the time. And then people are looking at us going, holy shit, they're just going.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's impossible to be around that without going, man, I got to do inventory on me. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
And those are the all-in moments. Those are quantum leaps. Like, you can't have the life that you say you want to have and the changes you want to have without paying the cost and taking the risk.
Taking the jump. Yeah.
So what are some things of 2025?
Well, my big thing is I want land.
So now we break this down into multiple things. We have our body goals, our spirituality goals, our business goals, but with balance is relationships. So these are the ones that Angie and I do together. So I personally believe it's healthy to come up with your goals by yourself first. Like, write them down and get clear on what you want, because the way we do it is that way, and then we'll get ideas from each other.
Yep.
And we want to make sure that we're not influencing each other too much, because you got to show up for you too.
Yep.
For yourself.
And we start with like what a perfect day would be.
Yep.
Right? Like, what does a normal day look like? What a perfect day would look like.
5 years in the future.
Yep. And then we kind of break it down from there.
Reverse engineer it.
Exactly. And we go backwards and say, okay, who do we have to become? How do we have to show up to become that version of ourselves and to live those lives that we've created?
So in Cabo, we did this.
Yeah.
We went on a little anniversary trip this year, and I did like a guided meditation, which
Yep.
was a first for me. And we just talked about the future. And you were like, let's talk. I said, no, let's just write down.
Yeah.
Let's write down our thing. Right. And they were very similar. There were some things that were different that we incorporated in. Mm-hmm. And we were able to unlock, like, what do we want our future to be like?
Yeah.
What's exciting?
And what do our personal goals look like? Because those are different. And then how do we align it as a couple and keep it on the same growing path? And then, engineer it that way. Like, okay, now backtrack. Okay, now what does a day look like? What does a month look like? What does this, 12-week year have to look like for us to get there?
This is where Angie and I sometimes, this is what helps us and hurts us. So the reverse engineering is to be able to think of this big future. I look at it very big. Mm-hmm. And she looks at it at small. Like, she wants to say, what am I doing today? What am I doing right now to get there? And I'm like, what do we have to do that's going to do it and get us there in 5 years, right? And so then when we're aligned, it helps out. Yeah. So example number one, you say you want land. You usually call it a farm. I usually call it a ranch, right? It's the same thing, but Angie, it's more horse focused, like
animal
horses,
driven.
Like in our window and shit. And I've been in this game. No.
They could just come up while we're eating breakfast and just
not happening.
Nay!
That's a dream.
That's
not how it works.
Oh.
That's horse shit and bugs. And
no,
flies.
they'll live in a pasture.
No.
And then the pasture will be open to the kitchen window.
So here's the beauty. We both want this. I picture it as like this huge piece of land, this Yellowstone piece of land, right? Like the show. And you have the animal part that's segmented. You have this beautiful house with the family part, right? A little bit like separation, all the fun, the trampolines and the things. Then I picture the barn dominium where we're having like huge retreats, and we're talking about like, we're having marriage retreats, we're having business retreats, we're having spirituality retreats. Like, we're doing all the things. We're having men are coming, remembering what it's like to be a man, like just this Elovana, which is what we call it.
Yep. And see, that's the beauty of our goal planning, is that I come up with the crazy idea and then you like make it this reality. It's like Instagram versus reality. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be great, because then I could just have a 4-wheeler or a tractor to get to my horses every morning. And then that would be fun for me. And then I just work my way into what the picture looks like.
I even inputted all these ideas into ChatGPT and had them come up with a picture. And it's wild. There's like this awesome truck, like a dually with next to like a Lamborghini, and it has me as a coach, but yet also like a cowboy. Mm-hmm. It has you as like this sexy Latina cowgirl, like when
I'm not Latina, but yes,
I know
I was in a previous life, but yes.
But all of these dualities, and just kind of getting reconnected in this analog way, because this is what we believe, right?
Yeah.
And so having marriage retreats and reconnection retreats would be part of the game. One of the reasons why we're doing the podcast. So for this reconnection.
That I would say is one of our biggest goals.
without a doubt, right? And then these years, it's about travel too, like really committing to these. How many times are Angie and I going to go on these little connection 2 or 3 night trips, these quick ones? We're really like, they're there for, I mean, what did we say in Cabo? It's there for, to eat, sleep, we had great sex in Cabo. We tried some interesting new shit.
We did. Fun. That's another episode.
Massages.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like it's like a reset for your marriage. We highly recommend, we need to actually do this at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And then what other trips, like ones?
Well, a lot of our trips this year are kind of obviously a reset and a reconnect for our relationship, but also to do recon for our 10-year marriage, like renewal, which would be 15 years. But 15-year anniversary is next year. So our big one, another big goal is to find the spot where we want to remarry and set it up and do all that.
So I was thinking about this. So we were thinking about getting remarried in Cabo and, this kind of bury our past 15 years, right? Even though it's the 10-year marriage podcast and we think you should be, recommitting every 10 years, we thought of this concept at year 5. So between year 5 and year 15, it's like a whole new 10 years. And so there's this thing about putting to rest the past, like leaving behind what that was and bringing forward us. Yeah. New ring, even though she doesn't want one, she's getting one. Who's at this wedding? Who are we sharing it with? Who have we become? Re-choosing ourselves. So we had initially wanted to do it in Cabo, and then I came up with the idea, why don't we do it on a ranch? And then I said, why don't we make it a retreat?
Yeah, because of it's all the things
and I was thinking, like, just this morning, we should actually, instead of we should make it an actual retreat wedding.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were going to do.
Like people who
have an agenda.
No, I'm talking about like people paying for a retreat.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what your idea was?
Yeah. And it's like a whole thing where there's breath work and there's activities and there's hiking in nature and there's like all these different things that people can plug into.
Give people options like, all right, so there's this option where you're actually
reconnecting with their spouse.
Yes. while we're doing this, which we may get some randoms, which would be super cool. Or people are like, oh, fucking Dave and Angie, and they can just show up to the wedding and be done with it, which will be line dancing, country music, hip hop, and fun night. So that'll kind of be, so one will be your marriage retreat, reconnection of their souls, and one will just be the wedding, and we can incorporate. I'm fucking in. See, this is how we do it right here in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not going to be cheap, and it's just going to require work, and it's going to be awesome because it's also going to set the groundwork and the framework for what we'll do on our own property by the time I turn 50, which is a 3-year goal, right? So these are the things we're thinking about. So this year is the 15-year, the remarry, the retreat. Next year would be Angie's 40th, Unbelievable, which is yacht.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be on
Maybe. I haven't decided yet.
And then mine is I want to actually have this event
at our own property,
at our own ranch.
Yep.
On my 50th.
Create the retreat like the dream retreat on our own property.
Beautiful. And so then there's other things, right? There's like, I'm going to get a vasectomy. And like I had said in one of my impossible goals that I want Angie to initiate sex more, which just saying it out loud to her and having a crucial conversation, what happened in Cabo? You initiated it.
I did. I did feel forced a little bit, but I did.
I didn't force you. I just said one of my impossible dreams.
I know. No, I did. Yeah. I initiated, I think, like 3 times.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
There was
it was great.
Some good fucking things in that one. And then we start, so the ranch is a big one. And then we start incorporating, okay, we want to take the girls to Disney World. We may take them to London for the Harry Potter experience. We're going to go on another honeymoon. Why not, right? In northern Italy and potentially south of France and Switzerland. So we're starting to put together our vacation proclamation for 2025, which should be required.
Yeah. And if you can look back at your year, like Jesse, what's his last name? Isler?
Yeah, Itzler.
He talks about like having, if you could look at your year and have some big moments, just whether it's 3, 5, 10, 12 big moments, and you can look back at that, like, wouldn't you consider that a successful year? Because he's very into, you only get so many summers left, and you only get so many
Yep.
times with your family left, and things like that. And those are the other things that we kind of work backwards, and we start checking off. Like, okay, our kids are, I mean, Ella's 13. She'll be 16 in 3 years. In 5 years, she's going to be an adult and potentially not even want to travel with us anymore.
She's going to want to travel.
Like, I know, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
Yep.
what can we do now where we really can offer her as a child still, kind of, as a teenager, you know?
And that's part of the game.
Yeah.
And so, and it expands. Traveling is a growth game. Traveling challenges your frame. Like, this should be a requirement.
Yep.
Right? And it also gets you out of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you see the world and the possibilities as a bigger place.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing right here has been a goal for a year now.
Yeah.
This podcast, right? Like, we've been doing it now for about 3 months, but we're launching in a couple of weeks, right? So like this being open and sharing our world and inviting people in, and not as like us preaching and telling people what to do, but literally saying, this is what's worked for us. These are our ideas. Would you consider this possibility that maybe you need to have a conversation, but not in a forceful way, but an invitation and attraction way? So the podcast, a 10-year marriage podcast, and all we've had to do, the money we've invested in it, and how we've had to learn how to pull this off. And
the arguments we get on every time episode, except this morning.
Well, you know, one of my coaches, Garrett, you know, he has a podcast with his wife, and he tells us all the time, he goes, a podcast will make your marriage so much stronger.
Yeah.
Real conversation. It's almost like therapy with the two of us. Mm-hmm. And so that's been part of the impossible game too.
Yep.
And then we take it a step further with our girls, right? Like, how are they going to grow this year? What do we need to open up as a commitment for them?
Yep.
Well, what else? I mean, I feel like I'm doing all the talking. There's a bunch of other stuff on there.
Well, are we just going through our goals?
Yeah, I just want to invite people in to be like,
give them ideas and give them some inspiration for their life.
A lot of ideas are a little bit borrowed.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And that's okay, because I think people are just stuck. So they need to be inspired somehow. I mean, a dream board's a dream board, but when you're doing a dream board, you're like looking at the person next to you going,
Well, I can rattle off mine. I mean, I want to get...
No, I'm talking about relationship ones.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them are. You know, like me getting certified in breathwork, fully certified, like that's something that's a big goal for us as far as holding these retreats and having that be a part of that. My friend Sonia just went to this Ibiza retreat, and it was like a full, like sensational, like seductive...
You're not going to Ibiza without me.
No, we would go together. She went with her husband.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was like a whole reconnection.
Is there a Cuban girl waiting for us there for the two of us?
No, and that's not what it is.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, but she came back and she was like completely like, holy shit. Like, I look at sex and sensuality completely different. And I think that would be something that was really kind of uncomfortable and weird for us, but so much growth could happen within like a retreat like that. Like, it's kind of like taking the Date with Destiny day where we're like dancing and doing that, and putting it into a full retreat.
Let's make sure that I've had my vasectomy by then.
Yes, because I do not want to be pregnant again.
I hope you're not right now.
I better not be, because I'll kill you.
All right, so we have a lot of goals.
We do.
I have some are around like Ella and Lola reading books this year. Some are about, you know, having conversations, like sharing book thing, having conversations about faith, which is an interesting new game for us, getting them active, things like that, right? Beautiful. I think we should talk about, well, you call it the code, I call it intentions, and what we're bringing forward.
Yeah. And I think that those codes can be incorporated in every single goal we have. Like, how can we do these 4 codes, or how can these 4 codes show up in all of these things that we're doing?
So we do all these big things. And they're fun to talk about. It's fun to dream big, but we'd be completely full of shit if we didn't actually do them. And what we've done in the past is we've pulled it off, but sometimes at more cost than it's worth. Because if we don't have the right energy behind it, right? So even this urban nest thing, like I could see the future and I understand like the faith and the calling and all those things. But if you don't have the mindset right, you can really second guess and regret what you've decided to do. I mean, I'll never forget the first day I had the Lambo. I was like, what did I do? Like,
Yeah.
this is really expensive. Like, other things were happening in my life that made me like start questioning everything. And when you make a lot of changes and things aren't going perfect in that moment, you will be like, why did I do this? Mm-hmm. Right? And so I was like, I don't want to fall for the trap. Like, the trap of perfection on a new year? You don't really fall for that as much, but you do a little bit, right? You know what I'm talking about with that?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I do that every week.
Explain.
I fall for the perfection of going, okay, it's a new start. Like every single day I'm going to do these 5 things and I'm going to make check marks for all 5 things. And then like day 2, I forget to work out and I'm like, shit.
And it becomes this robotic life. Like,
and then I'm like, I got to start over. And now I don't feel as great because I lost a day or whatever.
And then you start sabotaging. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't get my 10,000 steps today. So the whole year is done.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to fall for that trap this year because there is no perfect. Now, do we all need consistent actions that then lead to these big changes?
Yeah.
100%. I was like, let me bring intentions into this year. Like, let me bring these codes, these manifestations. And so I came up with 4 that I think cover a lot. And the first one was unwavering faith. And unwavering faith for me is like a combination of, and this is kind of like my primordial soup of like God's plan. The universe is working for me, not to me, happening for me, has my back. And what's my sole purpose, right? Like I look at this combination because I believe it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? The conversation I'm having with myself, that's energy, that's God, that's me, that's my soul. And when I listen to that voice to be like, don't question it, let go and just go. Not even like we say all the time, jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down. Like we do that, but sometimes like it's frantic. I'm talking about trust fall backwards out of the plane and let the person I need to become connected to God catch me on the way down.
Yeah.
To be so connected.
And this one reminds me of that book, Loving What Is, right? Where it's like everything that's happening is in divine timing, whether you realize it or not. And just loving it for what it is. And just knowing that it's only getting you closer and it's what's required to do what you've already set out to do. And if you're crystal clear and you have clarity on what that looks like, then it's just faith that it is happening the way it's supposed to.
Exactly. But this, when it gets tested, is when you really need to have it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, this is all unfolding. Like, for instance, I've been saying to God and the universe and the world, like, Urban Nest needs to be 300 agents for probably 2 years. And we've been as high as 450, as low as 380. And with this change, I'm getting the numbers back today. There is a highly likely chance that we land exactly on 300 agents. And then you'd be like, it was an interesting journey there. You don't know which 300, but I was like, this is what we have to become in this new world. And I'm like, did God show up? Did I manifest it? Did the universe show? Like, I don't know. Which leads to the second one. Immovable energy. Certainty.
Yeah.
To be like, and this is like, how do I react to the things around me? Because yesterday you were not immovable.
No, I was in a bad mood.
Right?
But,
so this vibrational frequency, this energy transference, right?
Yep.
Are we going to allow the world to bring us up and down?
But here's what scared me when you first said that. Not scared me, but here's where I pushed back when you first said this.
Because when you first...
I know. Well, I just thought about it in the shower this morning. But when you first were talking about immovable energy, I was like, okay, great. I'm really good at bearing shit. I'm good at like doing the thing, not feeling. Because that's where the first word immovable came into my
interesting frame.
Right?
Yep.
And then I was thinking about it and I was like, it's not actually that you bury it or that you don't let you feel the emotion, right? It's that you fully embrace the emotion, that you fully feel it, but you just get through it faster, right? Yeah. You're just getting through all of this faster. And that reminds me of the book Untethered Soul, where it's like this energy can come, you feel it, but you don't let it get stuck anywhere physically or mentally, and you just let it go, right? And that is what I think is immovable. And the faster you do that, and the more confidence you have in yourself that you can get through those, it's just going to continue to snowball.
Listen, it's a distant cousin from unwavering faith, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's energy transference, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I can see all my girls lose their shit and me show up as stern,
Yep.
but not a guy screaming at the top of my lungs, right? I could be someone who defends myself if someone attacks me, but not escalating it, just holding
Being the
steadfast.
calm in the chaos.
Yes.
Yep.
Immovable.
And having a
There's-
quiet confidence.
It's power versus force.
Yeah.
There's no forcing. There's no resisting here. It's
Yeah.
like, here's a situation. You know, everybody else is losing their goddamn mind, and this motherfucker is like, he's like, you're like, he's got it,
Yep.
right? The one who's going to take the shot at the end. And I believe if we're vibrating high, which is the goal, there's going to be this low vibrational force around us in the entire day. We have two choices. We can go down and meet that, or we could be immovable and have them come up. And if they don't come up, they're going to try to challenge it and just
Yep.
cannot be fucked with. Unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
So those two are great. And I almost stopped there. And I was like, you know what? Where's the fun, playfulness? Where's the joy? So I was like, infectious joy, attraction, seduction, playfulness. Like, I call it ball breaking. Like, almost like you're walking around knowing like a funny secret.
Yeah.
Like you have, you know what I mean? Like you're in on it. Like that's,
Yeah.
to
And
me,
I picture, you know, the girl walking down the street just dancing with their headphones on and not letting any of the other stuff even come into her frame. Or it's living as Gigi lives every single day.
a ball of energy, right?
Yeah.
And so this is when you're most free. This is when I believe I'm the most attractive, is when I'm not really flirting with people, but I'm busting people's balls and fucking with them in a playful way. I
Right.
think that's the best version of me.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I don't have to suffer through and white knuckle unwavering faith in immovable energy. Like imagine
It
if
could
you
be
have
fun.
It could be fun.
It's just like being kind to people during the day, like random acts of kindness. When somebody flips you off in the car and you're like, I love you too. You know,
which
it's
is
like
going to drive them more nuts.
exactly.
And
But
you're
it's
like,
great.
Yeah.
But then you could be like, I did my part.
Yeah.
I was actually, it was okay.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is kind of hard sometimes. Again, like these frames get challenged. When shit falls apart, can you have all three of them?
Yep.
Can you bring joy through? And so that was number 3. And then number 4, I was trying to embody this growth mindset. I was trying to embody like self-worth, treating yourself like a king, all the things that we're doing right now. And I was just an agent friend of mine, ours, just shared with me something that is going to stick with me forever. And it's the universe doesn't cash small checks,
Yep.
right? And I was like, this is always being the buyer of life, right? Not like, oh, everyone's going to tell me how to play. Because most people play small. Like I'm committing to having this kingdom life, not selling myself short.
Yeah.
In business, in relationships, knowing my value, attracting who I am. And as we level up and the standard changes, going, this is just the way it is. Like, you don't want to come along. It's okay. I love you for it, but it's not stopping me from going.
Yep.
I'm not being held back. And it makes me think, and I probably cried no less than 5 times to this song in the last month, and that defying gravity, right? If you really break down those lyrics, I hope you're happy now. I'm going.
Yeah.
Like I'm stepping into like this. I'm not playing by the rules of other people anymore. I'm not playing small. You're not going to hold me down. Like I need to fly. I need to grow. Like, you know, I rather, if being free means flying solo, I'm going. And so, yeah, if you ask the universe for this small shit, it's not showing up because you're not at your highest vibrational state and connection to God and your energy. So if you take all 4 of those and you're like, okay, what's happening right in this moment? And I have this like unwavering faith in my calling. I'm not going to be pushed off of it because I'm immovable. And yet I'm going to have so much joy around it that I attract the light. I am the lightness in the dark. And I'm just going to think so absurdly, impossibly big because there are no limitations on my life, regardless of the energy around me. Then all of the things that we've talked about, whether you do them every single day or whether you have the list or not, Like, how could you lose? We brought you through kind of a journey today. I mean, the past year of transformation, we're still getting used to and trying on new things around these big transformations. And we're showing you what we are hunting down. What are we seeking? What are we looking to do? What are we looking to unveil? And what happens is sometimes it doesn't end up, that 5-year plan will change a million times. But what's required is taking that first step, opening that first door, which will then open other doors. Mm-hmm. It's the continually going, we're going to go again, course correct. Well, we kind of wanted it that way, but it's going to be that way. I mean, a month ago, we were going to have that wedding in Cabo and have everyone, and now it's a ranch wedding and a retreat, right? But we're going in that direction. You got to start with at least the end in sight, having the grace to be able to pivot as you go without stop moving. So the challenge for all of you is, how does this look for yourself, but mainly also for your relationship? You see, this may expose where you have to improve. You know, if someone is already given up, one of you, and the other one is like, I want to go, this is the time where you got to rise and meet your partner and give it your all. You got to try, because if you have one person without purpose and the other one with it, you're going to collide pretty quickly. And you got to make sure that the person who wants to grow and have purpose isn't pulling themselves down and being held back by the other person. And then the resentment goes both ways. And if you're the person holding back, maybe it's time to meet your partner at that compelling future to give it a shot, because you don't know what the relationship is even possible, what is possible, unless you try, rather than just give up on yourself and an extension, give up on your relationship. So every day, every year, and every 10, hopefully you don't wait 10 years, is an opportunity to be like, let's double down, let's go for it, let's create a compelling future for us, a shared purpose for this relationship to go.